Meeting to order for Steering B, County Commission. With that, Commissioner Malden, will you lead us in prayer, please?
Shall we pray? Our almighty, high and holy Heavenly Father, we joyfully bow before you as we approach your throne of grace this evening. Father, we thank you for all the bountiful blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day, Father, and we're thankful for the promises of what the future holds and your promises of grace and mercy. Lord, be with us throughout this evening. Father, be with us throughout our time of service tonight and on throughout our time of service during our elected terms, Father. May we conduct ourselves in a manner that is appropriate, pleasing to you, Father. May we seek your wisdom, Father, and seek to make the best and right decisions that we can for Smith County. Father, we pray that you be with any of those that are on our hearts and minds at this time, Father. Uplift them, encourage them, and comfort them in any way that you can, Father, but be with us also so we can wrap our loving arms around them as well. Father, we thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercy, your scheme of redemption, Father, and the sending of your Son here to this earth. We ask this prayer in his name. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Stacy, roll call, please.
Terry Givens.
Here.
Helen Bowes.
Here.
Greta Kirby.
Here.
Ron Pascal. Matt Inyard.
Here.
Erica Ebel.
Here.
Danny Irizarry.
Here.
Justin Malden.
Here.
Junior Fields.
Here.
Tim Beller.
Here.
Ed De La Rosa.
Here.
And we have quorum, correct? All right, thank you very much. Anybody for public comment, Ms. Stacy?
No.
All right, no public comment. Next on the agenda item is election of chairman. Since you guys have elected me as pro tem, I don't think it's right for me to take both, so I want to withdraw my name from the candidacy of that. So with that, I'll take a motion or open up the floor for nominations for chairman for Steering B.
I motion Tim Baylor to be chairman of Steering Committee B. Second. Or nominate, let me revise that. I nominate.
Nominate.
Tim Baylor to be
There you
chairman
go.
of
Thank
Steering
you.
Committee B.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations?
I'll
Any-
make a motion that nomination cease and Mr. Baylor be elected by acclamation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of motion ceasing for nomination for chairman of Steering B and Tim Beller being elected by acclamation? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Commissioner Beller, this is your show now. I want to sit down.
All right, next on the agenda, I appreciate it, will be the election of vice chairman. Open for nomination for vice chairman.
I'll make a motion that Evil be nominated as vice chairman. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion for his equal. Any other nominations? Any other nominations?
I'll make a motion that we cease nominations and she be elected by acclamation.
Second.
All right, all in favor, who will be the vice chairman?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Next on the agenda will be the approval of July 31st minutes.
I can hear you.
Section program.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion second approved. Favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Number 8, new discussion that the roads and bridges, I believe, Mickey.
Yeah, I think the report from the highway department should be in there. And y'all will see in there too that I had something in there for the right-of-way mowers. I got a little more information. I didn't have a chance to get that to you. So if it would, I'll give that information and present that at the next meeting. if that's okay.
Next Steering Committee or next?
The Oscar and Shakespeare Memorial Bridge dedication report.
Mr. Kerry West came to me a couple of years or so ago back, asking about a bridge to be dedicated for his grandparents in a difficult community. Kind of summarized it there for you as to what it was, and then on the other side, kind of a picture of where that bridge is. It's on a county road. Mickey and I talked about how this was done in the past, being county roads, and always came before the Roads and Bridges, so just wanted to come before you guys and make you aware of that and get your approval to push this forward through the county commission to rename this, or to name this bridge in honor of Mr. and Ms. Kemp.
Motion to approve. All in favor?
Thank you. I'll have a resolution, we'll have a resolution for you in October.
Next up, we got policy. First one is going to be on,
I think Daisy's.
Nadia wasn't able to be here this evening, so the reason that nepotism is on here, the focus is because we tabled bereavement from the previous meeting. And in reviewing bereavement, the word immediate is used, so if you want to pull up both of those at the same time and look at them, you have the current and a revised suggestion behind it. The use of immediate between both policies had two different definitions. It laid out different sets of family members in each one, and we didn't feel, since immediate wasn't defined in the definition section of the policy, that we should be using it with different definitions across the policy. So the revisions just remove that word immediate, and on the nepotism, it replaces it with certain relatives, and then you have the changes that are highlighted there. We did talk with county attorney who had reviewed the state's nepotism policy as well for suggestions on language changes, and if you want to cover that, you can.
As far as the bereavement, I think the only thing that you'll see change there is they added niece and nephew as being granted a day for bereavement on that one. It was previously just aunt and uncle. When they did the review, they did, as you all know, we're trying to go through policies and just bring them up to you to get through our policy manual. And so during that review, it was noticed that aunt and uncle were there, but niece and nephew was not. And so that was the suggestion there, which then led to the discussion about nepotism and that common word of immediate. Now, you will see in the revised, when we had this discussion, and they did loop me in on it, and I talked to them a little bit about it, we put in here on the revised, shall include spouse, parent, child, and sibling, because, those being kind of your closest connections. That's not to say that I or HR or anybody necessarily thinks you should not include any of the others. Those were just to us kind of the ones that you kind of need to include. When we reviewed the states and some of the, Matt, I don't know how familiar you are with the state's policy, but in reviewing the state's policy, they do list many of these same farther out, such as brother-in-law, sister-in-law, parent-in-law, so on and so forth. They end theirs with the clause who reside in the same household. And so, that may add a different element to it. Do you want to include some of these farther out? I'm not sure that grandparent-in-law is necessary. That's pretty far removed. But, do you want to include some of these others and that phrase in the same household like the state does? Or do you want to reduce it down? Or leave it alone. Quite frankly, you can leave it alone. This was just, as we go through the policies and we see things that might be reviewed, this should be one of them. And I think the mayor may be able to speak to the fact that on occasion, nepotism is difficult because we do live in a small, close-knit community, and a lot of your employment
limit
base.
some of your hiring opportunities.
So, I think the bereavement one is probably ripe for you to take action on because there's very little change in that of adding niece and nephew. If you want to have a further discussion on nepotism at a later committee, I think that's appropriate, or, whatever you want to do at this point. But that's how this came about and why we brought these two to policy review.
I got a question. What about step-sisters, step-brothers?
all that, that's not addressed in the revised version, or it doesn't appear to be, so are we, I mean,
Well,
or are we just saying sisters, whether they're step or not?
stepsister, stepbrother weren't, they were not in our, they were not in our original.
But it is in the original as far as the nepotism. Is that correct?
No, it is not in the nepotism, and in the state's bereavement leave, they do include it, so if anything, I would like to include it.
That's what I'm saying, I'd like to have.
Oh, you're talking about.
On the bereavement.
You're on bereavement.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
Yes.
I was
bereavement, that's what
looking
I'm
at,
talking about. Bereavement, it needs to be included, stepsisters, stepbrothers.
where steps in.
It says stepchildren is how the state defines it.
Well, that's kind of,
So,
stepchildren, that's just for
But-
the parents.
I think brothers and sisters should be as well.
so siblings,
Siblings, yeah.
so in siblings, you think step siblings as well?
As far as bereavement,
Okay.
I'm not talking about the nepotism.
Yeah, I was looking at that one, I apologize.
Would my siblings be like, okay, that'd be my brother or sister, stepchildren would be siblings of my children, so it's kind of a little bit different, correct?
I think as far as interpretation, from what I've known to happen through HR has been, if someone puts in for a bereavement day and it's a stepchild or a stepbrother or sister, and they say it's my child, my brother and sister, we're gonna honor that. We're not going to, like, nitpick the, you know, I have a stepdaughter,
Does it
she's
need
my
to be that
daughter, I don't,
specific?
yeah.
I mean,
I think it should be that specific, because what happens when it is questioned? As
Sure.
far as stepsister,
it's not gonna hurt to
brother.
put it in there.
No.
That's the reason I'm,
Yeah, it won't hurt anything.
So step siblings and stepchildren?
Stepchildren.
Okay.
Yeah, because the state says defined as spouses, children, including unborn, stepchildren, siblings, parents, grandparents, grandchildren, step-parents, foster parents, and parents-in-law without charge to the employees of whom they leave balance. So I think we need to include, if we want to model more off of the state, I would also like to include the foster parents as well as that, because that's not listed in here, I don't believe.
Step-parents is not,
No, it's not. So add those two.
Just make it the same as the states.
Can you read that the state's list again?
Sure. Let's see here, I'm on page 9, unless you want to be technical. Spouse, children, including unborn, stepchildren, siblings, parents, grandparents, grandchildren, step-parents, foster parents, and parents-in-law.
Okay. That's another option you can do as well. There's a lot of things that we just simply model after the states for continuity's sake, and if that's what you want to do,
That can also be language that you guys could decide you want to adopt rather than trying to make her say what you want to say. If you'd rather have that, then we would just reference the states.
Now, my understanding, does the state give, do they have a tiered system of days, or is it 3 days for any of those? Because what you have right now in our policy is a tiered system.
Oh, yeah.
2 days for, 2 days for some and 1 day for others. So that's
2 days for
another.
your most immediate family and 1 day for a further out relation.
Daisy, you may not know this, do we know how much is extra charge to
No,
have
it's
as
not.
bereavement countywide?
Oh, no, I mean, it's gonna be,
I just don't want to set this up if there's a lot of.
I mean, it's not, you know,
So,
it's not a overly, you know, it's reasonable, it's not. There might be some in some of the departments that would have an issue if you moved it from 1 to 2 days to 3. I can't speak for them.
Yeah.
well, in some cases, sometimes you're gonna have to fly or travel,
true.
and 2 days may or may not be enough.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
The state giving 3 days for bereavement. Is that for any of those listed? Any of those listed, we need to inherit that as well, in my opinion.
Keep the rest of it like it is, at one time.
Go to your supervisor, and that's how the state's policy is as well. That's up to the supervisor, each discretion.
I'll make a motion to follow the state's policy and give it exactly the way the state policy is.
For bereavement.
For bereavement.
Now, the state's policy doesn't mention anything, it's funny, this is what brought this all about. The state's policy doesn't even mention aunt and uncle, if I heard wrong.
No, does not.
And ours is fewer days but more broad. So if you know,
We add in.
you can add whatever you want. I just don't want you to unknowingly remove something just by saying, well, let's go by the state policy, you know.
Like I said, Junior made a motion.
Yeah. Junior, you want to amend your motion? I'm sorry, I'm not the chairman.
I'll amend the motion, follow the state's policy and add aunt and uncle,
Niece and nephew.
niece and nephew.
Second.
Motion second.
We're moving too fast for the.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Well, that was number 2. Took care of that. Go back to number 1. That's good. Any other comments on that?
Not from over,
What brought on the change?
The word immediate used across both and the difference in the definition of what immediate was, because there was different members in the current policy.
it wasn't necessarily that we saw anything wrong with what was listed. It was immediate, was defined one way in bereavement and defined a different way in nepotism. So we figured, go ahead and pull nepotism out and review it at the same time.
Did we just define immediate, how the state defines it, is adding aunt, uncle, niece, and nephew? So you just put that in there?
The state's nepotism policy says a relative or family member shall include the following relationships: parent, foster parent, parent-in-law, child, spouse, brother, foster sister, grandparent, grandchild, son-in-law, brother-in-law, daughter-in-law, sister-in-law, or other family member or domestic partner who resides in the same household. So the clause, that who resides in the same household is kind of a clause that we don't have, the state has. And that may clear up some of the issues itself, I don't know.
Do we have a current, I know we're reviewing this, have we had an issue where we're not able to hire somebody that's potentially in the pipeline that's a candidate for something?
Yes.
Because of the current policy?
Yes.
I mean, it's just now says spouse, parent, child, and sibling, which is very narrow. I would like to see, I like the state's policy if we, actually, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the nepotism policy as revised, but I would like to add an addendum to it shall include a spouse, parent, child, and sibling, or any other family member who resides in the same household.
I'll second that.
That makes sense.
That way, if it's somebody in the household, we still are covered by that, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Okay. So,
So what happens if we're not?
so what,
Stick to those four.
okay.
That's what, that way if somebody is
Well, if your
living
spouse
with
is not
somebody else.
living in your
you know,
house, you probably
That's a
don't
problem
want-
anyway.
Yeah, if your spouse is not living in the house, you probably don't want to work with them.
Well, when you call them direct supervisors, well,
When there's questions about that, we typically will refer that department head to the county attorney for them to sort out being in compliance. We have had issues where there's been relatives in a line, but if they have what is deemed to be an adequate supervision, chain of command type you know, we
So
kind
it's
of.
case by case.
It's
basically.
case by case, and we loop in the attorney when it's necessary. And then it's kind of, you know, if the attorney says that they have the right to do what they're doing, then we just move on.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. All right, next, we've got Title VI compliance.
Yeah, I go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to make a motion to group and approve items 3, 4, and 5 under policy. I think these are all pretty standard.
Motion to second. All in favor? Park and Recreation, Kitchen, the next step.
Okay, so I told you, I think last commission meeting, that we did not receive the grant that we went after, and in your packet, the scorecard is there, and you can see that we came in ninth, and they awarded the top 7, scored a 90. I mean, I don't know how much higher we could do. I mean, we did everything we could, we just didn't get it, for whatever reason on that. So that leaves us back to, we have the problem with the playground. And what I've put in there that is the actual quote from Recreation Concepts to do that complete rebuild with that poured in padded, and the all-inclusive playground for that $725,000. Now if you remember, we had $342,000 set aside already from a round of governor's money 2 years ago. In order to do this, you would have to be a fund balance draw of probably $500,000 to complete it as is. But also there you'll see David Etherly of Isengard has agreed to provide labor and equipment if we just want to refurb. One of the things with the refurb I would like to do is add that 10-foot chain link fence and get rid of the pickets, do a sign for the pickets. That gives you a better line of sight. We'll work with DTC to get automatic locks on those gates, so at night when it's dark, they close and lock, and we don't have the vandalism that we see sometimes down there in that place says it sits by itself. So I just wanted to come to you guys and get your opinions on what you think's next, what I should do next. For the $342,000 we already have set aside will cover all the equipment that needs replaced and materials and then if Isengard is willing to do labor, and my guys can help on that some as well as far as just doing that. It doesn't fix the mulch and the flooding, but it's fixing it and getting it better till, we can still continue to try to go for some of these grants if we can.
How soon can Isengard?
Of course, that was something they talked about back in the summer when we first talked about it. They were pretty busy, but I will get you an answer on that. I don't know for sure exactly when.
How long, with both options, how long would the park be unavailable to the public?
I'd like to try to do it, as soon as the weather turns pretty cold and, try to work on it this winter and have it ready. The goal would be to be ready by early, spring, warm weather.
Yeah, if we go with Recreational Concepts, are they okay with that timeline?
You talking about doing the rebuild? No, that's a completely different timeline. You're probably looking, right there, lead time's 26, 28 just to get it here. So that's half a year, or basically half a year. So you're looking at summer on that one.
We gotta get something done over there.
I agree.
Make a motion to let Isengard provide the labor and we
Okay.
do the
Materials?
work out of the $300,000 that we already have.
Okay. Thank you. All right, that's what we'll do. I'll get with David tomorrow and start getting a timeline and a material list together and figure out what we need to do. Thank y'all. We'll put that dog to bed.
Do we need to?
That's gonna be a roll
No.
call, so thank you.
Okay, roll call it.
Terry Givens,
No.
Helen Bowes,
Yes.
Greta Kirby,
Yes.
Matt Inyard,
Yes.
Erica Ebel,
Yes.
Danny Irizarry,
Yes.
Justin Walden,
I'm going to abstain just because my employer is mentioned as part of the project.
Junior Fields,
Yes.
Tim Beller,
Yes.
Ed De La Rosa,
Yes.
I'll get with David the next day or two and I'll shoot y'all a ready out and tell you the timeline and what all's entailed.
Okay. On the education.
Given the impact of this, how the size of it, I know it's on the other steering committee, I think this is something that needs to be done in full commission, with input from all commissioners, so I'll make a motion that we move it to consideration before the full commission at the next meeting.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Full commission. All right, any other business? Take a motion to adjourn.